and welcome to Richard Rants. My name is Richard Rants, and this is the Richard Rants Show. We're here to discuss items of great importance to the country, to the world, to each of us. Things are a mess, and where I start is with the Bush regime destroying this country, destroying what we stand for, profiteering off the war. We'll get into more details later. I'd like to introduce my guests for tonight's show. Both are sitting on my right, and they are Nick Fell of Galaxy Chamber.
Hello.
Right over here. Hello, Nick.
Thank you for all tuning in tonight, and wanted to make you guys aware of a cool radio show every Sunday morning from 11:15 to noon on 90.3 FM KUSF, and I have one or two other announcements that I'll mention later in the show, and thanks again for tuning in.
All right, great. And let's go over to Jason Buckley here, my second guest, a first-time guest here.
Great to be here, Richard and Nick. And
Good to have you.
Hey, and I made a silly little movie, and you could see stuff about that at WashingtonInternsGoneBad.com.
All right. Great. Well, and I am Richard Rants, as I take Jason Buckley's name off the screen.
Hey, that's not me.
Yep, and we'll find the phone number here because I'm going to be taking calls this show. The number on the screen is 621-4473. Recurring viewers know the kinds of issues that we're discussing, both national, international, local issues that affect all of us. So until we get our first call, maybe I will yield the floor to whichever of my guests is more eager to present something. Okay, they're pointing to each other. So so then I'll just start.
Well, the latest union disintegration of the labor movement and the unions and that New Deal that was just struck. You were mentioning early on you had origins with that.
Yeah, I had actually worked at the AFL-CIO starting in about '96. I had done the union summer internship. Real gung-ho off the election of John Sweeney, who was coming in with all these sweeping reforms, and it was pretty exciting back then. But 10 years later, and the reforms haven't really happened, and the unions are unhappy, and the people who are really getting screwed are the workers, I think.
And of course, most unions, go Democrat, and that affects the Democratic Party, along with the campaign finance reform, the McCain bill. And this is still another attempt, like the outsourcing of the American jobs, to disintegrate any opposite opinion to the administration that's in power right now. So, yeah, that's also going on, and along with... Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, it couldn't come at a worse time right now. I mean, we've got the most anti-worker administration probably ever since, well, before I was born.
Herbert Hoover, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, just recently, the National Labor Relations Board made it okay for companies to ban off-duty fraternization. So basically, exactly. You can't go to happy hour with your coworkers now if your boss says so, and so you're checking your rights at the door of the job and just leaving them there.
Even Ronald Reagan was for that. He said him and Tipper Gore used to have a drink after 6:30. Speaker.
They would fraternize.
Yeah. So.
Well, I say the first workplace they should ban that is in the federal government.
Yeah, well, fraternization is a favorite pastime of our corporate lobbyists and also political lobbyists out there. That's what that makes me think of, a bunch of fat cats taking our elected leaders out and donating big money to their campaigns so that they can get special deals passed and a bunch of pork. And pork in government is bigger than it's ever been before. It's all part of the corruption. And when the corruption starts at the top, and when the people at the top are just filling their pockets and profiteering, that just leads everyone else to say, well, I better get mine too. And that's what's happening. And when the leaders say it's okay to torture prisoners of war, then they go ahead and contravene the Geneva Convention, and that's considered okay. But what's the normal soldier going to say if the defense secretary says it's all right to torture, and the head of the Justice Department believes that it's justified?
Yeah, and the people that wind up going down in these scandals are just your average working class privates, low-level people who are just following orders. But
Yeah.
they're not going to send Donald Rumsfeld to court in The Hague over this. But
Yeah, we got a caller. I think.
All right.
Let me see. Caller? Hi there.
Richard Rants?
Yeah, hold on. Let me adjust the sound because you're our first caller. Speak up, please.
Oh, yeah, can barely hear you, but
Okay.
it's me, Crack Baby.
Oh, Crack Baby, I missed you, man. Where you been? Jeez.
Richard Rants is getting so
Oh,
popular
man.
now we have regular
It's about
callers.
time. Thanks,
Like,
bro.
Pete Franklin Sports. But I just wanted to make a parallel with what you were saying again about the power struggle or structure of this administration. How I think it's been, 21 days Judith Miller has been in prison for the Karl Rove leakage case. And
Right.
how Karl Rove
That's
and
atrocious.
Scooter Libby are not getting blamed at all, but they found a convenient person to take the rap.
Yeah, not even Novak.
Yeah. And he has a history of that. Like I said before on the show, Robert Novak was working with the Reagan-Bush 1980 campaign, and leaked information, Karl Rove leaked information back then to Robert Novak 25 years earlier. So I'm not very surprised at these recent...
At least Bush's daddy was smart enough to fire the guy for it.
Indeed.
And Novak was recently quoted as saying that Karl Rove never told him anything, even the time of day, on the record, which is typical Karl Rove. He doesn't talk on the record. He's a sneaky, behind-the-scenes little manipulator, and he wants to be a shadow back there, puppeteering.
One of the real-life cancer men, if you're familiar with that show from the 90s, X-Files. But I thought it was kind of interesting how when Karl Rove was fired from the Reagan-Bush campaign for leaking in 1980, they actually found a place for him where he could work his way back up. He showed up in the Texas governor race of 1984-85, and he was backing the Republican candidate there, and starting his office got bugged routine. And yeah, again, check out Bush's Brain. It's a great movie. It's all about Karl Rove, his secret advisor who stands in the shadows.
Yeah. All right, well, in other news, Bush appointed John Bolton,
to the UN,
to be our ambassador representative of the United States to the United Nations. And this is a man who has a very bad reputation where he came from in the State Department of being an overbearing, dictatorial manager who was very vindictive and conducted witch hunts against those who disagreed with him, and manipulated intelligence, which of course is the type of thing that endears him to this administration. If you manipulate intelligence to justify the goals that the administration has already set, such as, for instance, invading Iraq, so let's say that we have found evidence of weapons of mass destruction and connections to Al-Qaeda, and let's have a show of hands. How many of you people out there still believe that crap? A surprising number still believe it. It's amazing, and our leaders encourage that kind of thought as well.
Oh yeah, well with the
here's a caller actually. I'm going to cut you off to I'm sorry.
No, I'm pretty much
get this
done.
caller. Hey caller.
Hey, you
Hi.
guys sound like you're not too down with the New World Order. What's the matter with you?
Yeah,
The New
exactly.
World Order is great. It's beautiful. It's caring and benevolent and
Right.
It's carried.
freedom.
Yeah. You've got your share of Soma, right? You know, so that,
Why, yes, thank you very much.
yeah. So yeah, we're all feeling quite content and hopefully plunked in front of the TV screen, absorbing exactly what the leaders want you to.
Yeah, we've always been at war
I
with
think the
Iraq.
space shuttle thing. I think that this. I've been, I was there's some people. There's a lot of different theories, of course, but the whole space shuttle thing right now. you know, I thought it was kind of strange how they were really rushing, like out of nowhere. They said, "Oh, we're going to set the shuttle up on, you know, it's going to be July 13th or something."
Yeah.
And then, you know, they had trouble and they couldn't do it. But they were
Mhm.
really pushing. They were like, they had to do this. And,
Right.
you know, I've heard people say that it has something to do with that. When they fired the thing at the Comet a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
or something like. But
Mhm.
you know, there's do you guys know about Operation Northwoods, right?
Operation. I don't actually.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, this is a little history thing, but this is
Yeah.
goes back to the 60s and the Bay of Pigs. Basically, you know how we were trying to, you know, we wanted to invade Cuba. And,
Yeah. Eisenhower.
The
Mhm.
plan
Eisenhower and Nixon wanted to
the
invade
Joint
Cuba.
Chiefs of Staff
Yeah.
already had the plan in
Yeah.
motion even
Yeah.
before Kennedy got in.
Yeah, Kennedy got stuck with the operation.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, what happened after Bay of Pigs? You know, they still wanted to go in, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff came up with a plan, and you can find this online. It's like I said,
Mhm.
it's called Operation Northwoods,
Mhm.
and it was basically they were going to manufacture terrorist type events, or you know, create incidents that they could blame on the Cubans.
Mhm.
For example, they were going to do everything from like shooting a plane down over the, you know, a plane maybe heading from Miami to,
Mhm.
you know, South America, or you know, at the time they were doing a lot of the space, you know, the rocket launches, and if let's say the any of the Apollo missions like didn't, like something happened to it, and like you know how they were blowing up left and right beforehand, but like they were going to blame that on him,
Mhm.
and or just random shootings in the streets.
Right. Right.
And what happened was Kennedy saw this, and he was like, "No way, this is not, you know, I'm not down with that."
Mhm. Yeah.
And conveniently, you know, like, you know, I mean, there's so many different theories and ideas on why Kennedy was killed, but this seems to fit in with the same, you know, the
Yeah.
same motif.
I'm with you there. I think the Cubans played a part in Kennedy's assassination too, as well as E. Howard Hunt and.
He was going to pull out of Vietnam. They didn't like that.
Nope, that was
And the
exactly.
Texas connection too.
Yeah.
And the Israelis getting the nuclear missiles.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, it's funny because Kennedy, like, it's almost, you know, people, the conspiracy thing, it becomes, I think it's become so complicated that that anyone who tries to get into it, they become sort of insane in their own
Yeah.
head because of, and not that the things that they're thinking are not true. It's just like even, you know, 9/11 and all these other things that are just so many different little like, wow, I didn't think of that. Ooh, that's kind of weird. That's convenient. That's
Right.
coincidence.
And then you have to wade through all the disinformation and the misinformation. And the first cover-up was the Warren Commission, and then they went from there. And they kept trying to cover it up. And as actual researchers brought more facts in, the government and, well, or the CIA influences, mob influences, the people who wanted to cover it up, our secret government, put forth a bunch of wacko conspiracy theorists so that then they could tar everybody else.
Yeah.
That's a standard
Well, I was going to say
procedure.
on the Warren Commission was former President Gerald Ford, along with Alderman and
Arlen Specter.
Ehrlichman and Arlen Specter, and Alexander Haig was actually a security guard in front of Parkland Hospital, like working for the FBI.
What do you guys think of? Did you guys have any thoughts on Haig?
He kind of disappeared after he tried to take over for Reagan. Remember that when Reagan got shot, and he stepped up. Well, you know, you can listen to me now here. And
well, this is the thing about that's kind of weird is that he actually though
he has a show now, right?
He saved. What's that?
He has a show now, right? Or
I'm not sure. I don't know. I
think he has a show, actually.
A TV show, a radio show.
Yeah, on Fox, actually.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, where else?
Yeah, right. It would be.
But I know he was very like him and Bush were having a lot of fights, like, you know, when, you know, going all the way back to the Ford administration, they were just, they had different ideas, and apparently, like, Haig, though, the thing that I, like, wonder, like, why, like, you know, of course I have plenty of negative thoughts on him, but one thing that I did think was kind of interesting was that I think that he actually saved Reagan's life, because apparently they were going to take him to Bethesda Naval Hospital, you know, where they do all the great cover-ups of assassinations. And when he stepped in and said, "Hey, I'm in charge," he actually got them to take him to. That's why it was a big deal made that Reagan was in, you know, D.C. General.
No, it was GW, I think. It was George Washington Hospital.
Well, it was it was just but it was the basic standard like
right
city one, yeah. And so. You know, I mean, I think that's really interesting about, so I guess it's maybe I'm just thinking that it's, you know, pick a side. It's like the X-Files, you know, you got the inner quarrels between the different like factions that are
Right.
manipulating everything. But I'm going to go so you guys can take some other callers. But
Thank you for your intelligent questions
Yeah,
and
thank
comments.
you.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks
Later.
a lot for your call.
Okay.
Take care.
Again, Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who was at a position in Clinton's first administration, he later on helped Chris Carter, the writer of X-Files. He worked 3 seasons on different scripts. So a lot of that was based, on actual secret government premises, but kind of glitched up for the TV audience, and that's. But some of the premises were actually pretty valid. And that also, Eisenhower talked about he had privy to so much information, and in his farewell speech he said how far we've come intellectually, and we're not ready emotionally for it. And I think he was privy to a lot of this with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but he was leaving, and he wanted to get involved. But when Kennedy became aware of this, he just couldn't let this fly with the way the country was changing and stuff. So like this last caller said, there's a lot of reasons for his now that he got killed, for the conspiracy theorists. And that's part of their technique, the disinformation and regular information. Reading
Right.
Yeah, just the
falsehoods in
overflow of
Scientific
information.
America
Right.
and truths in the Inquirer sometimes. you
Yeah.
know. They even joked about that in Men in Black, that movie. But so yeah, you never know where you're going to find the truth.
Right, and people would rather watch celebrities. So here's a caller.
Hey, this is me, the last guy that just called up again.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to tell you guys. Do you guys ever listen to Coast to Coast AM?
Art Bell's old show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's going to be a guy on tonight named Alex Jones who he actually just got back from London doing a lot of investigating into the whole London bombings that just recently happened. But he's going to be talking about that and talking about just 9/11 and Iraq War and secret societies, that kind of stuff. So just wanted to
Yeah, thanks. Tell us again clearly where and when we can catch this.
Okay, Coast to Coast AM on 560. I forget what the call letters are, but
5:60 a.m.
5:60. Yeah.
Okay.
5:60 a.m. It starts at I believe 10 p.m. It might be 11 p.m.
Okay, and
with George Norrie, and the guy's name is Alex Jones, and I recommend it to anyone who's whether you believe it or not,
Right.
he actually encourages people to check out what he says. Hey, look it up and tell him if he's not telling the truth.
right.
So
Indeed.
okay.
Thank you very much, and I encourage everyone to do as much research as they can on their own.
It's way down on the left-hand side of the dial. It's as if you're going to tune into a college radio station, except you're on the AM frequency and not the FM. And very good. They had something on a couple nights ago about sonar experiments that are screwing up the wildlife in the ocean. And
that's yet another tragedy. I mean, I can't even process all of the tragedy involved in the natural world.
Yeah.
Humans inexorably destroy it. And of course, my favorite whipping boy, Bush, is a big supporter of corporate destruction and overall desecration of natural beauty.
Oh, he's a guy
profit.
who allowed polluters to draft pollution regulations in Texas.
Exactly.
I mean,
well, nationally too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the head of the EPA is a former oil lobbyist. So and you could actually go into every regulatory agency, and that's their standard practice.
Yeah, it's the fox and the henhouse strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're the foxes, so they put their buddy foxes in charge. Yeah, so they can.
With Fox News to cover it all.
Yeah.
It's kind of
we're
like
the
those,
hens.
Pentagon internal tax audits. Like where's all that money going? But we'll wait for your report so you could tell us where you spent the money. It's the same kind of approach.
Well, here we are on public access TV. This is channel 29. It's Comcast cable.
And I just wanted to give a plug to this show in particular. This is one of the only shows on this station that encourages live callership, where the listeners and the TV audience could call in right now live when we're on the air.
Quite true.
So
it's one of the few, and there's a couple of others, Vegan TV, but yeah, there's some interesting other political shows as well, and I won't enumerate them now, but you can check our schedule on accesssf.com. That's just 2 S's in that. The schedule is there. By the way, my email address is richardrantz@yahoo.com. Please send me emails. You got questions, comments about the show. Of course, you can always call in too. .org. And good thing this is, you know, the studio's right here, and Tom corrected me. It's accesssf.org. So here we are, and we just had a big budget battle with the mayor's office over a $96,000 budget cut. And public access is provided not out of the goodness of Comcast's heart, because it's a huge corporation and doesn't have one. It's just beholden to make as much money for its shareholders as possible, kind of like Halliburton fleecing...
Or the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, exactly. Their job is to fleece the public as much as possible. But the pharmaceutical companies are limited to like what? Well, no, actually, they get a lot of money from the government too for.
Oh yeah, now they do.
R&D. That's a joke, and then they use it all for advertising. Of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
if you check any doctors, like if you compare a physician's journal, like the magazine that physicians read about new medical cures or discoveries, compare one from the 1970s to one now. Now it's mostly pharmaceutical ads for the pharmaceutical companies in the magazine. There's very few articles that are describing anything new, any new explorations in medicine. So, you know, that tells you something. They have a right to take care of their shareholders, and that's the main prerogative.
How about those happy TV ads you see for, like, herpes? Oh, my God, they're riding horses. This must be the best disease ever.
Side effects include vomiting, diarrhea, and you know, and they throw that into the end, like, very Simpson-esque.
Yeah.
But
and they say it in a way that makes it sound like not such a bad thing.
Right.
Like,
right.
oh well, you may have vomiting, you know, but that's a good thing.
Just ask Bob Dole, right? I mean, he's
right. My point about public access, and we can always stray from the topic, and if a caller calls in, that's great. I'll interrupt whatever's going on. But the city of San Francisco is considering a settlement with Comcast, which will provide only a tiny amount for operations for public education and government programming. This is public education, public television. It's going to go bankrupt if this happens. So there's also a federal threat coming up that Congress, in typical fashion under this administration, is going to take power away from the cities regarding control of their rights of way, which Comcast has to. That's why Comcast even has to negotiate with the city to use their rights of way. And as part of the negotiation, they're required to fund this public access station, which gives us our free speech in this world of corporate control. And just a tiny little bit, but this bit, of course, is being threatened. And now I've got a caller, so I'll bring him on.
What would Thomas Jefferson think, huh? The way he wanted the states to have their own rights and to leave things up to the states.
Right,
yeah, and the Republicans are supposed to be the states' rights party.
When it's convenient for them.
Yeah, when it's about flying the Confederate flag.
Right, or the Ten Commandments or something. Right, yeah. That's they're gonna, and you know, we're not anti-Christian. We're not anti any religion, but we're against this organized effort to force everybody else to conform to certain standards that one very virulent group insists upon. In this country, they're the ones that control the direction of this administration.
Yeah, and they're really kicking the culture wars up several notches these days. I mean, now with the whole intelligent design versus evolution thing, I mean, Bush was just in Texas saying that intelligent design, basically creation, should be taught in schools alongside of, you know, the scientific theory of evolution. And people are taking that seriously, and it's kind of scary.
It is, and basically science, it's as if science is being not even going to be taught in school anymore.
Well, official science,
Darwinism.
I mean,
in the Bush scheme of things, in the fundamentalist Christian dream, creationism is taught in the schools, and the Bible is your main school book.
Well, I just saw one of Darwin's
I
books.
got a caller, and they've been scarce tonight. So, hello, caller?
Hello, this is Jeff. Richard?
Yeah.
I've never seen this show before, but it sounds great.
Great. Thanks a lot.
How many shows have you had?
This is, we've been on for about a year now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you guys are saying tonight.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on some of these issues, or some issues that hit closer to home for you?
Well, I just tuned you in recently, but it's good that people are talking about this. Yeah, I'm not really crazy about Comcast either, or any of that.
Yeah, they're just a big heartless corporation, and I'm on their airwaves right now, so I kind of take a little bit of perverse satisfaction.
Exactly, and I'm paying for that. It is kind of funny. I wish there were more of this, and I'm glad you have the courage to do this. That's great.
Yeah, thanks. Encouragement from callers and from people who enjoy the show really motivates me to do it.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Right.
And something that you guys were saying, I just got a letter in the mail from, there we go, Walter Cronkite. And
how's he doing?
He's doing real good. Now that he's retired, he's able to really speak his mind instead of just reading scripted lines handed to him. Anyway, it's from he's part of the Religious Faith Alliance. And I talked a little bit about this on one of the episodes of the show before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically a Christian, and his alliance, it's been going now since the mid-'90s. He must have seen this happening, but he's very outraged at this administration and how a few of these right-wing neocons have taken control and basically have, there's an old Bob Dylan song, "With God on Our Side, You Could Do No Wrong," to basically employ God that he's working for us. But anyway, in the letter, all these different religions are together. Even very right-wing evangelists are in this organization because it's a basically live and let live organization. You got everyone from cool right-wing evangelists all the way to pagans, and just for people to have the original precepts that America was founded on of religious freedom. And that's what this organization is all about, and it's very anti the new small group of right-wing neocon direction that the country is being taken in. And I'd recommend people to check out the website. It's the Religious Faith Alliance, and Walter Cronkite is one of the main spokesmen. And,
Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
And he's...
means sickness in German, Cronkite. Anyway.
I would hope that the majority of people with faith in this country are not represented by the shrill minority that are taken over.
I would hope.
I mean, I just don't think that the progressive religious folks are organized as well, and I think they had better get on that real soon before their faith just completely gets hijacked.
And I ran into Russell Gonzaga not too long ago, who was on this show a couple months
Hopefully
ago.
we'll have him again before too long.
And I wanted to repeat something he said on this show that we were talking about. And basically, when you get all this flack about Satanism or people being, believing in the evil force, it's like he said, I'm going to go ahead and say it, that those right-wing evangelist people that are doing this right now and are pressing all this information and healthy differences of opinion in this country are the Satanists and are the ones who are trying to instill fear and scare people into following their agenda. So it took a lot for Mr. Gonzaga to say that, but I'm in total agreement.
Well, sure, because their agenda just doesn't fly without that fear.
Exactly.
Who's going to buy it?
Right. Fear is the tool that this regime is using to increase their control, and fear is always used to motivate and control the public in times of war, and it's used to bring us into war. And
to me, those are the real Satanists, not these little heavy metal kids from the suburbs who use it as a shock tool to their parents, or even Anton LaVey, who is an ex-carny who set up this whole Church of Satan. To me, these are not the real evil people. These ones at the top are the ones pulling the strings and taking us in a oppressive direction here in the future with some of those Supreme Court nominations that are going to last for 30 to 40 years now. We're going to have this long tentacle shadow over us now.
Yeah, if for instance, if Roberts gets
Exactly.
approved for the Supreme Court,
Yep.
yeah.
And
Do
Sandra
you
Day
even think
O'Connor
there's a chance that he's not at this point?
No, probably not.
That's good. That's a good. Yeah.
I mean, the Dems don't have the votes to block it. They're not going to pull the nuclear option,
Right.
or they're not going to filibuster
Right.
because of the nuclear option. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought it's interesting too how certain. So about a week ago in the Examiner was a whole chart of the Supreme Court and its history in the last 30 years and all the people and their origins. And I thought it was quite interesting how a lot of them who were appointed by Republican presidents who came in as right-wing judges have actually become liberal or moderate.
Right. It's been a happy, like.
So it's kind of interesting.
that and the right wingers of yesteryear certainly are far more moderate by
That's
today's
right.
standards than the right wingers
That's
of
a good
today.
point.
Well, on this Bob Woodward interview with President Gerald Ford, he was not in agreement with the way this administration was doing things now. He thinks it's too extreme. So, But he's a throwback to another era when there wasn't a right-wing power grab going on, as much.
Well, they just didn't have the power, right?
Exactly.
Now they got it all in their hands, but they're blowing it big time. People are going to look back and say this is when the country met its ruin.
Yeah.
Definitely. Unfortunately.
Well, I hope it's just a bump in the road.
Yeah, it's a huge freaking
Yeah,
bump
a big old pothole.
Yeah, because it's like, just look at the national debt. I mean, that's more than a bump. That's like how many times our national gross product is the national debt, and compared to that, we couldn't in our own lives. No bank would possibly grant us that kind of credit.
And Bush might actually veto a bill.
Hey, we got another caller.
Of course.
Hi there, caller.
Hey, it's good to see Nick there on the television.
Yeah, it's good to have him there. There's Nick right there.
Thank you.
Nick Fell of Galaxy Chamber.
Yeah, how you doing, Nick? It's Eagle calling.
Oh, hey, Eagle. How are you?
Hey, my problem is that I don't really like conservatives or liberals. I don't like the right or the left all that much.
Yeah, well, go by. That's good. I mean, go by your own independent opinion on each issue. I think that's a great way to do it.
I think there needs to be a movement towards a progressive type of attitude where it just seems like both the liberals and the conservatives are too concerned with keeping the status quo, whereas we really need to, at this moment in time, need to be more progressive. We have great advances that need to be taken advantage of, and we're really just missing out on it.
Right.
And I think a lot of the ways the liberals are kind of stealing away certain aspects that the progressives should be jumping on, and they're just really making a mockery out of a lot of stuff.
Well, can you bring up a particular example?
Well, I really have a problem with President Clinton and what he did, and like just the way that the things are looked at is just skewed by the media. From the Arab point of view, if I was a terrorist, I would look at President Clinton and say, boy, $5 billion is going to Israel, and here he is getting a blowjob from a Jewish woman in the White House. And it looks just, it looks like a $5 billion blowjob going down.
Egypt gets almost the same amount. That dates back to the agreement at Camp David that Carter brokered, where
the Accords of 78.
Right, where he made a deal where he would fund Egypt and Israel almost identically. So I mean, they could easily look at it that Egypt's in on the same deal.
Well, it's not an Egyptian woman giving him a blowjob.
Well, it's not an Israeli woman either. That's ridiculous. I mean, she's
it's a Jewish woman, and
what?
If you want to look at it, she actually has dual citizenship as a Jewish person. She has citizenship as an Israeli.
Are we going to get into like a whole anti-Semitic thing now, or what?
Well, I hate that word. I prefer to talk about anti-Jew, personally.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to look at the gay pride parade in Israel, there was just a stabbing, there was just stink bombs being thrown, there was bags of excrement being hurled at the gay pride parade.
Well, yeah, that's terrible, yeah.
Yeah, Israel is not the greatest state, but they do not represent all the Jews.
Well, I don't really know where they stand. It just seems like a great departure from the Torah, which is supposedly Jewish law. And I can hardly find a Jew who was even read the Torah.
Yeah, well, I mean, and also 80% of America identifies as Christian. But
Yeah.
how many of them follow the teachings of Christ?
Yeah, I know. I totally agree.
So,
if from my point of view, George Bush is actually Jewish. He follows the Torah. He doesn't really follow.
Whatever, man. Okay, well, thanks for your call, dude.
All right.
All right.
Right
Take care, bro.
Take care.
All right. Boy, man, it's also a big banking conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the Elders of Zion, you can read a lot more about it. Apparently, I think that Jews kill Christian babies and then they drink the blood.
Well, what's interesting is people forget that Christianity is a Middle Eastern religion. Christianity stemmed from the Middle East. So it's kind of funny that it's the main religion of the West now, but its origin was in the Middle East. I'll say it a third time.
Mm-hmm.
And that. But I also wanted to bring up the Camp David Accords because we hit upon those, what Jimmy Carter did. And that was a pretty cool thing how he brokered peace between those two factions. But the ammunition companies and the war hardware companies stand to profit a lot from those accords that Jimmy Carter,
Sure they did.
So anyway, there was Jimmy Carter. It was a very cool thing he did, but he also there was a reason he was put in that position to be able to do that cool thing.
Yeah, because he basically gave the military-industrial complex their little bonus that they needed.
Exactly.
That's why he was able to do that. Yeah, because otherwise that complex wants war.
Yeah.
They want war. They want fighting all the time. But if the cost of peace is that all of a sudden the U.S. is buying a whole bunch of weapons for people, then that's good too.
And I have to mention this for the humor aspect of the show. There's a King of the Hill from about 2 years ago. It's the Christmas special where Jimmy Carter makes an appearance and they do a parody of the Camp David Accords, how he brings about peace between Hank and his dad. It's hilarious. If you can, check it out.
Some positions of the Bush nominee for the Supreme Court, Judge Roberts, who was brought to Washington by the Reagan administration to help in a massive push towards bringing the conservatives' vision, sort of the budding neocons at that point. He defended the constitutionality of legislation to restrict the federal courts from ordering busing to desegregate schools. So
what a guy.
Yeah, so basically, does not want the federal government in the job of enforcing desegregation. We fought this battle in the 50s. I didn't fight it, but some very brave and noble people fought that battle in the 50s and into the 60s for civil rights. And that was, you can argue about individual programs, but overall, the idea of desegregating our system is, I think it's very basic that it has to be that way. We can't have a racially segregated country. This is a melting pot. He maintained that the Supreme Court is overreached when it denied states the authority to impose residency requirements for welfare recipients. Basically, overall, he wants the states to be able to deny people their civil rights and not have the federal government interfere. And of course, he has written convincing arguments against the validity of Roe v. Wade in his past briefs.
I've been told that the way Roe v. Wade was written isn't necessarily the best constitutionally, so that's why it's sort of always been on kind of shaky ground.
Kind of vulnerable.
Yeah. Like the actual opinion written was not written well, but I'm not a constitutional lawyer, so I can't comment too much further on that.
Too bad they couldn't reaffirm it with some addendums or something.
Well, it's lasted this long.
Yeah. But a bunch of stuff has been disintegrating in the last 5 to 6 years under this administration, like the ABM treaty that Nixon brokered, the anti-ballistic missile treaty. And I think Roe versus Wade was around the same time, maybe a bit earlier. So bunches of stuff, environmental laws, from the last 30 years, from Nixon and Johnson, have been basically turned back in the last 4 to 5 years under this administration. So, we actually have gone back in time on a lot of issues, and not in the simple Mayberry LSD way that people dream about, and way back in some restful mind of the Republican Party.
And they're just going further and further back, because next they're going to dismantle what's left of the New Deal.
People don't like that idea. They haven't been able to make that Social Security reform fly.
Oh, they just haven't sold it the right way yet.
Well,
they're working on it.
Wow, a caller. Hey, how about that? Let's see if there's a caller online. Caller.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hey, we're good.
I'm also a regular caller to your show, and I have a suggestion for you.
Okay.
You guys bring up a lot of food for thought sort of topics. Do you have any opinions as to positive action on any of these topics?
We do. We do indeed.
Because I know you don't spend a lot of time on suggestions that may be practical.
Yeah.
Just,
No, this is good. Positive action. I'm glad. Actually, I was going to bring up something in regards to the Board of Supervisors meeting about Comcast cable, which is close to home.
Well, they say most of the useful things that you can do are local politics. Very, very hard to influence national politics.
Well, en masse we can, just like when they wanted to take away PBS funding last month. And massive emails and public outcry changed the opinion of our representatives.
Well, they say that each letter represents 1,000 people who never got it in the mail.
Right, and that's how they look at it. Yeah, that's how the representatives are going to look at it. So if they get a lot of letters, they're going to take it into account, because after all, they need to get reelected, and money buys votes, but not when it's a landslide against them.
And I want to announce an event that's going on that kind of goes along with the caller, what he's saying. The ActionHeroNetwork.net, Corey Richardson, between August 8th and 18th at Ashland Park at Page and Buchanan. It's kind of every night is going to go on fire dancing, political brainstorming, people networking, so there's food there, tarot reading, political pamphlets, leaflets, what's going on. So that's one thing that...
Okay, say again where it is.
This is at Page and Buchanan every night between August 8th and 18th, and it culminates in a big final party and meeting August 18th.
Okay, what's the purpose of the meeting?
This purpose of the meeting, like I said before, is to network different people locally, like people who live in the neighborhood, along with other people who are politically aware in the Bay Area, and to kind of have a melting together of ideas, and also networking and trading of websites and linking to other, websites and places and things, and that's one possible thing.
That's one event. I've got some others over here, too.
We got a bunch, actually.
This is regarding the Comcast cable. There's a meeting of the Board of Supervisors tomorrow, Wednesday, August 3rd at 12 noon, in the Board of Supervisors main chamber at City Hall on the proposed Comcast settlement. So your voice can be heard pretty loudly, and you can be seen there. If you could get to that meeting at 12 noon tomorrow, they're likely to vote on the settlement next Tuesday, and that's a settlement that is basically going to get Comcast off the hook for supporting public access television and government television, and they can just concentrate on making money off of commercial television without providing any public service.
Are you going to be there at that meeting?
I unfortunately have a day job, but I'm going to try to be there.
Okay, just one thing to help your demographics.
Yeah.
In case they wonder, you're not just getting nothing but young people. I'm 56. I watch your show regularly.
Yeah.
So you're getting demographics here.
Excellent.
You have a young sounding voice.
Yeah, we can tell. But let me just go through this here too, regarding contact your supervisor, whoever that is. Jake McGoldrick, Aaron Peskin, Ross Marcarimi, Chris Daly.
District 5, Ross Marcarimi.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine is McGoldrick, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, Tom Onion. He's Jake.McGoldrick at sfgov.org. All of them are at sfgov.org. Chris.Daly at sfgov.org. Devin.Dufty. Not my favorite, but he's there. Tom.Amiano at sfgov.org. So that's some action that you can take, and our local supervisors can hear your voice.
And people don't realize that you can actually go directly to see important people.
Yeah.
Years ago, in the 60s, I went with a friend to see the mayor back when Alioto was the mayor. because we had something we wanted to talk to him. We got as far as his deputy mayor, so at least we got somebody there.
Right, yeah.
And that counts for even more than letters. I mean, that's something like 10,000 people who couldn't be bothered to write letters or come to see him.
Dan White didn't have problem getting in.
Well, he was a supervisor, so yeah.
But anyway, I want to mention...
All right, I'll leave your call open, Okay, good talking. But one last question.
Yeah.
Is your last name really Rants?
No, it's not. That is
yeah, I thought that was the name of the show.
That is the name of the show and sort of my TV stage name, Richard Rants.
My girlfriend asked me that this week.
It's also my email, richardrantz@yahoo, and it will soon be my website, richardrantz.com as well.
Okay, good. Don't forget at the end of the show to mention when you're on again.
Yes, which will be Tuesday the 16th. Thanks for reminding me.
Okay, goodbye.
Thanks, bye.
And here's another event. You were going to put this on the Plant Trees.
Yeah. So tell us about it.
This is basically, there seems like there's been an onslaught in San Francisco in the last couple of years of people cutting down trees for no reason. And actually the City Board of Supervisors is very pro-tree in San Francisco. And this particular website has bunches of information of where people are going ahead and needlessly cutting down trees, which provide people oxygen, shade, privacy. We live in a city. Gee, it's sure nice to have green stuff around, no matter what Reagan said, trees don't create more pollution than automobiles. So check this out. This is a very cool...
What's the website?
It's one of the websites. It's on the card I gave you, but one of them is...
Yeah, I couldn't put it on the screen.
Okay. Then Scott at planttrees.org.
Planttrees.org. Scott at planttrees.org.
And if you go to that website, you could kind of branch out... out to a lot of other websites and events happening as far as environmental issues go, mostly locally, but also nationally as well.
All right. Hey, here's another local action thing that I wanted to bring up was, and it's close to my heart because, as you know, residents in San Francisco, longtime renters in rent-controlled departments are being evicted so that the Ellis Act can be misused by real estate speculators who come in. They don't care how long the people have lived there, how old they are. They just kick them right out of the house and they change them into TICs, which is basically just some legal cover-up for condo, and basically condo conversions, and they're evicting people from their long-term homes to make condo conversions. I think that the landlords have a right to make a reasonable profit off of their properties, but they don't have a right of life or death, over a serf, over controlling their lives that way. When someone moves in, if there's rent control, it was made to be a reasonable amount per year that the rent is raised, and to guarantee someone a home. That's not a bad thing. People are being evicted, and the SF Tenants Union helps tenants, and that's at SFTU, San Francisco Tenants Union, sftu.org. This is Sunday, July 31st, mobilizing at noon at the SF Tenants Union, which is located at 558 Cap Street, fanning out the city, and what they're doing is going to open houses of places, buildings where tenants were evicted so that a TIC could be brought in. And here's the caller.
21st and Cap is the cross street.
And here's the caller. Hi, caller. Hi there. You on the air? Okay, never mind. So, 21st and Cap Street. And if you can't make it, call 282-6656. If you can't make it to the mobilization, 282-6656. And they will tell you some places that you could picket. And you can also go to sftu.org, San Francisco Tenants Union, and you can find information about the locations that they're picketing. And they found that most prospective buyers of TICs, which are really basically condos, will not want to buy a condo that was made available because some long-term tenant was thrown out on the street. So it actually is effective to picket those things.
That's good to know.
Yep. And then I'll go over to talk about some more action here. Jason, if you would turn to your left, there's something about the Muni Fair hike there. If you could tell us what that says and what kind of action. There's a fair strike September 1st.
Okay, well, Muni plans to raise the adult fare from $1.25 to $1.50, to raise the youth, senior, and disabled fare from 35 cents to 50 cents, and all while doing this, they're going to lay off 200 drivers and cut runs, including the J, K, L, M, and N, the N which would affect me, 14 Mission, 38 Geary, and the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12.
Okay, that's enough detail.
Okay.
So basically, Muni's fares are being raised, and against the backdrop of the fact that there was actually slightly more money available for the city's transportation budget than expected, and when they had a choice what to do with that money, they had a choice. Well, we could not cut the fares, or we could lower the penalties and the cost of parking cars on the street. And what they do, they made it cheaper to park your car on the street and raise the fares on public transportation. Isn't that the way it usually goes? The things that benefit the elite.
Too bad Matt Gonzalez lost by 6%. I don't think that would have happened if Matt Gonzalez would have been in as mayor. And this is all a trickle-down effect from Sacramento and Northern California being bled since Schwarzenegger's gotten in as governor. We had to pay the price here in Northern California. And again, he's up for election next year because he's still filling out Governor Gray Davis's term. So get out there and vote. Vote Democrat. Listen to your nurses and teachers and what they're saying about what Schwarzenegger's doing to their lives.
But nurses and teachers are a special interest. That was a really bad Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, well,
sorry
we'll take what we can get.
Okay.
It's as good as the guy on The Simpsons.
So, yeah. And, well, I'd like to actually, for a change, praise some Republicans. John McCain, John Warner, and Lindsey Graham attached wording to the latest defense bill that would require American forces to obey the rules of law regarding torture, and basically are against the kinds of abuses that we've seen exposed, and unfortunately which cuts to the heart of what it means to be an American. Americans believe in fair play. It also endangers U.S. service members who might be captured by the enemy. These are values that Americans have held dear for generations. Fair play, human rights. These are things that are rhetorically we all agree with. And then suddenly, out of fear, people turn around and are willing to abandon all of those principles.
I'm amazed McCain hasn't spoken out against this earlier, having been tortured by the Viet Cong for how many years?
Right.
I mean, yeah, I don't recall him saying a whole lot about it until now, but I'm still glad.
Yeah, I look for him as
about
possibly running in 2008 for the Republicans. I could see a McCain-Giuliani ticket, which would be hard for the Democrats to beat. And as cool as McCain is, we need to get a Democrat in there to pull things back for the working people. John, as ironic as it was, John Kerry seemed like the stuffy intellectual, but he actually had more of the working people's, because the Democrat values in mind, as opposed to Bush, who seemed like the dummy down one of the two, but he had the elite's power interest in mind. So that's the irony of that last election. So
which was stolen by the Bush regime.
Yeah, it's funny.
Just like the last time.
Yeah, one of the counties in Ohio where there's only like 3,000 people registered, Bush got something like 3,500 votes. So I don't know how that happened. I was back in Ohio back in December, and did some of the try to get in contact with Congresswoman Tubbs, who was working with Jesse Jackson on checking into the election fraud there. But they all pretty much painted Jesse Jackson as some kind of
wacko conspiracy theorist. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a wacko conspiracy theorist, because there are no conspiracies, of course. It's just crazy to think that people conspire to do things. Crazy. And, yeah, it's no surprise that the voice of reason in the Republican Party comes from three people unlike George Bush who actually have experience in the military. Senator McCain was a POW for 5 years in Vietnam. Senator Graham spent many years as an Air Force lawyer. And Senator Warner is a veteran of World War II in Korea.
And you notice Colin Powell's no longer with this administration. I think his son also resigned from Clear Channel, too.
Yeah, well, his son...
Well, he was the FCC.
Hey, here's the last caller. Hi there, caller. You're the last caller.
Hey, Richard Rants.
Hey there.
It's Crack Baby signing off.
All right, Crack Baby. Right on. Next time, hey, tell us something else. All right. Okay, so he's a regular crank caller, or crack caller.
That's a sign you're getting more popular. But
well, no, not really.
Crack mean the drug, or a crack in somebody's head, or a crack somewhere else?
Well, the first time he called, he said that I looked like